While you may consider me to be an Etsy guru, I think of myself more as a mentor or somebody that's just doing a thing that you're also doing and sharing what I've learned along the way. At this point in my career, I don't consider myself to be an Etsy expert. That's not to entirely discredit myself or the work that I've done here. I mean, my 7 years in business and the last 3 of which being full-time must account for something, right? But unfortunately, I cannot know everything, and neither can you or anybody else. So that's why we learn and share what we know. And sometimes what we know is wrong, or it was right at one point and has changed, which happens a lot. For our last video of 2023, I thought I would share some things that I was either wrong about or didn't have all the information about, or things that I have shared that have now changed. And I would not be surprised if these things change again. So I'm not going to go back and link to specific videos about this. One in particular I did take down just because it had some old information, like specifically that changed, like the fee percentage when that changed a while back. Keep these things in mind as you go forth in your learning about Etsy and small business adventure. And when dealing with things like taxes or legal issues, definitely look up that information for yourself from the first-hand source, not just taking somebody's word for it on YouTube. The first thing that I thought of when I sat down to write this list of things that I was maybe wrong about or didn't have all the information was pricing and specifically taxes. Now, I wasn't giving like bad tax advice. Be wary of that from somebody that is not a professional. But specifically, I made a video talking about how to figure out your pricing, and I didn't mention that you need to account for your self-employment income tax when figuring out how much money you need to make from your Etsy shop. That video was quite a while ago. I don't remember if I just forgot or if I purposefully didn't include that, because I can't really give a specific amount or like a percentage. Some people are going to throw out a number, but it's going to depend on a lot of things. For the first several years of my business, I actually reported a loss on my taxes because it wasn't my full-time job yet and I wasn't like really taking a paycheck from it. So in that case, I was not having to pay the quarterly taxes because I wasn't going to owe any at the end of the year. There is a form on the IRS website that you can fill out to figure out if you need to pay quarterly or not and how much, but it is daunting because you don't always know what you're actually going to make for the entire year, because most small businesses are going to fluctuate constantly, and if you are brand new to it, you're not going to have any idea. Like, your business could really take off next year and you end up getting screwed because you didn't pay ahead. So specifically taxes and money stuff like that, I stay away from talking about because I don't want to give you bad information that could make you pay more or not pay enough for what you're supposed to. And an accountant can help you set all that up, figure out if you're going to have to pay or not. I think it is well worth it if you have no clue what you're doing. I've been doing my own taxes for a while, so I am okay with it. Although I did make a boo-boo this year. I have been using QuickBooks Self-Employed. I thought I would switch over to regular QuickBooks like last month. QuickBooks, just the regular one, is not as easy as QuickBooks Self-Employed. I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm gonna figure that out soon. And one thing I will say that I just looked up to make sure I had this information correct. So the IRS was supposed to start that new $600 rule for this year, but they delayed that a little bit. I don't know for how long. Etsy and other similar places that would have to issue 1099Ks were lobbying against this because it would be a lot more work for them. So according to Etsy on the community page, they say that previously the IRS was going to have a $600 threshold for sending out a 1099K, which means that they would report your income to the IRS. So they will know if you don't count that as income. But that will be delayed until 2024. According to this post, that could change again. So if you sell anywhere on like Etsy, eBay, Shopify, I think will send one also. They will send you a 1099K if you made more than $20,000. If you made $20,000 or more in sales and 200 transactions. Or if you live in a state that is different. I don't know what those states are. So if you hadn't heard about that change and were freaking out that you're gonna have to have extra income on your tax filing this year, then there you go. Hopefully that's some good news. All right, the next thing is something that has changed over time. I started talking about this well over a year ago, probably 2 years ago at this point. It was the search ranking, how that all works, and the quality score, how that all plays in. I haven't really mentioned this in particular because I kind of thought it would be understood that the Etsy algorithm doesn't work like this anymore, but apparently it's not, and some people are still really concerned with ranking on the first page of an Etsy search. Just stop. Don't waste your time trying to rank on the Etsy search in like right now and for the foreseeable future, because it doesn't work that way anymore. And it hasn't worked that way for a while. So what do I mean by that? Now, obviously you want your listings to look good to Etsy, so they will put them higher up for everyone's search, but it is absolutely pointless to try and rank for the first page because there is no way to check that. There's no way for you to look up your own search ranking, even if you search yourself on an incognito browser or use a VPN or whatever, because that does not work. Every single search on Etsy and anywhere on the internet, but specifically we're talking about Etsy, they are tailored to the person, to the IP address, to the device, to the account that the person is using. So every single person, all of the tens of millions of people who use Etsy on a regular basis, are going to have a different search result for the exact same search. So there is no way for you to rank for all of them. Having a bestseller helps, having ads on could boost you up a little bit, but even ads are not guaranteed to put you on the first page for everyone because your budget's going to run out eventually. But your focus should be on connecting with and targeting your specific target customer or your target audience, and not the algorithm or the search engine, like the specific keywords. So instead of asking what should I do to get this listing on the first page of the search results, you should be asking how can I make this listing more appealing to my target customer. And the quality score still applies as well. So things like having good reviews, having all of your about me sections in your shop all filled out, having fast shipping. And by fast shipping, I don't mean shipping like 5 minutes after they order. I mean shipping on time and within the customer's expectation, because they are given a specific time frame when they should receive the item. And how many orders that particular listing has gotten already will also play into the quality score. So when somebody searches on Etsy, it's going to take several things into account. So this is my theory about how the search engine works. I mean, there is so much science behind all of this. The people that built it probably can't even explain exactly what it does. That's why it's a computer algorithm. It does it automatically, it's programmed, and takes there's a lot of data that goes into every single search. I think the first thing it's going to look at is the query matching. So if somebody types something in, how well does each listing on Etsy, because it's probably going to comb through them all, how well does this listing match what they're searching for? So if somebody searches for a coffee cup, it's not going to bring up sweaters because it doesn't match. Unless you had like a sweater print coffee mug, in which case it may come up. It's also going to look at your listing's quality score. So if your shop is known on Etsy or by Etsy for having positive reviews, positive customer interactions, and shipping quickly, and having a high conversion rate on that specific listing, it's probably going to be higher in the search results. Where the witchcraft comes in is they'll then take that shortened list, so they don't return every single listing on Etsy for each search. They narrow it down to the ones that match the query, and then sort that by the ones that are likely to produce a positive customer experience. And then those are also sorted by how well the item would appeal to the specific person that is searching for it. So just like your social media feed, just like a Google search, it's tailored to you. It knows everything you do. Everything you look at on Etsy is giving it data. It's what you click on, how long you look at it, if you scroll through all the photos, if you like that item, if you buy it. It takes all of that into consideration and makes a profile of you and what you like and what you're more likely to purchase. Because Etsy's job is to show customers products that they are going to want to purchase, because that benefits them and us. So they don't want to be showing people stuff that they're probably not going to buy or that other people have had neutral or negative experiences with in the past. And on top of that, the search page is not where you're going to get all of your traffic from just organically on Etsy, because they also have the recommendations. So when you open the Etsy app, it will give you little sections of recommendations. So it will give you some that maybe you were browsing previously, or things that you, search terms that you have saved. So I have a couple search terms saved in my Etsy app. That way I can check quickly if new things have been added that match that term. Or if you create a favorites list of specific things, it will give you recommendations for that list specifically. So like I use fabric and such and buy like trims and ribbons and buttons, and it will give me recommendations on like those specific lists that are pretty similar to things that I've already added to the list. I haven't seen this as much recently because they've changed it around a little bit, but occasionally I'll see it pop up with suggested shops. So if I have bought several things from these different shops, it will recommend me other shops that will have similar things that I may like, and most of the time they're pretty spot on. So having your listings perfectly search engine optimized or SEO'd is not as important as it used to be, but it's more important now to appeal to your customer. So you're not trying to feed this computer algorithm, you're trying to get people to interact with it so that more people will interact with it, because that is a positive signal to Etsy. The next one is kind of related. It is about the description. Previously, I have talked about how for your SEO, you have your titles and your tags, but you also have your description. I have seen a lot of people go in and just put a crap load of keywords into their description, like alphabet soup in there, and that's not how it works. You want to have your keywords, or your specific, like most important keywords, in the first sentence or two. I usually say about 140 characters. I can never remember the exact amount, but as long as they're in like the first couple sentences, you're good, because that is going to give you SEO for Google, because people can search for products on Google and come up in the shopping window thing, or the shopping tab for Etsy products. So don't ignore that part. Keep that as is. You just want to have your focus keyword, what the item actually is, in the first part of the description, naturally in a sentence that makes somebody want to actually read, and not just like alphabet soup like I just said. But recently we have learned from Etsy themselves is that the description is what gives a lot of context to the algorithm when it is figuring out who to recommend this product to, or how to rank it in search based on what that customer has bought or looked at previously. Maybe certain customers are interested in certain materials, or things that are sustainable, or maybe certain colors they prefer. All of that is going to come from the description. So your description should be descriptive. And it tells about your shop as well, and people may favor certain types of shops over others, like woman-owned and stuff like that, certain specifiers for the kind of business it is. So I was right about that, because I've always said to put a little like sentence or two elevator pitch about your shop specifically and what you're about, like your mission statement. And the idea here is to be specific and target your specific person that you have in mind, that is your ideal customer, and not try and reach out to way too many people, because if you're just cramming a bunch of words in there that may not be relevant to your target audience and trying to rank for everything, that is going to just give Etsy signals that your listing is not good, because it's reaching a lot of people but they're not interacting with it, they're not buying it, because it's just too broad. Like you're spreading yourself too thin by trying to cram a bunch of stuff in there. So be specific and think of like one person when you're writing your description. Write your description as if you are talking to a person and explaining to them what the item is. All right, this one can work in some situations, but I would be a bit more careful about this. So this I have heard people refer to as down listing. When we talk about quality score and having a good conversion rate on your listings, that's going to help them rank higher and so on and so forth. People that sell one-off items or unique, one-of-a-kind things are like, what do I do about that, because I can't sell more than one of this thing that's one of a kind. This can work in some instances, but I wouldn't say to never do this, but I would proceed with caution, because I didn't make the connection before. But if somebody has favorited your item, especially now with the emphasis being on customer satisfaction and what they're going to be interested in. Somebody has favorited that item and it sells out, you relist it, then their favorited item is not the same one that they had in there before. They might be confused. And I don't have specific data on this, but I am thinking that that's going to throw off the SEO as well, because unless it is the same listing, just a slightly different picture, then it's going to be different from the original SEO. So you're gonna have to change some things, and that could throw off your quality score a little bit. That little boost of the item technically being restocked, even though it's a different item because it was one of a kind, it's not going to be that much different from just making an entirely new listing and having that bump from the brand new listing. Just a theory, like I said, because I don't have any specific data. They don't tell us exactly how that works, because if they did, then everybody would be gaming the system and it wouldn't work for anybody. But my suggestion, if you make one-of-a-kind things, or primarily one-of-a-kind things, is to make some that are not one-of-a-kind that you can actually reproduce and get more benefit from the quality score from those as they continue to sell, instead of having to make a brand new listing for everything. And it's less work for you as well, because you can make one listing and sell multiple hundreds of items from that exact listing versus having to make a brand new one each time. And you can copy the listings when you make a new one. That doesn't affect your quality score at all, but it still takes a little bit more time than just selling the same thing. So up to you how you want to do it, or what works best for your business and how you do things on the back end. That's all for this one. Hopefully your holiday season has been at least okay so far. This time of year is unnecessarily stressful, so don't forget to take some time off for yourself, and I'll see you again next year.